All right. And let me check the waiting room one more time. Okay. We're going to hop along then. Thank you all so much for being here. We are really excited to be with you today. And this is something that I am really crazy about, is digital comics to get students engaged in class and as a fun way of teaching and learning. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why in just a moment. But just so you know, I'm Janet Frazier, and I'm the Digital Learning Facilitator in the Inca District.
And I am Wendy Fusco in the North Buncombe District. And a wild dog in the background, just so you know.
What was that? Oh, yes. And we do want to thank Eric Kurtz, who does work in the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, for his inspiration for this. I did put a link in here, and at the end of the course, you're going to get a link to this presentation, and this link will take you right to that. He's got lots of wonderful PD. And so that's where I originally started this a good while back, and really enjoy using this particular mode for teaching and learning. All right. So Wendy, I'm going to let you take it away for just a second.
Absolutely. So why comics? Comics really engage kids. It allows kids to be creative while synthesizing the information that hopefully they're learning, and being able to have this internal conversation, which is a great way for them to not only present information, but also kind of self-question so that they can have this amazing dialogue. So they're fun. Students enjoy them. They engage both male and female, and just lots and lots of fun on that part. But at the same time, you get, as a teacher, the true feedback of, do they understand? Did they use the right imagery? Did they really convey this information so that you understand, yes, they do grab this concept? And on the next slide is our Buncombe County framework. And comics really do touch on several of these cogs, if you will, from the standpoint that, of course, they're reading, they're writing, they're thinking, but they can actually read aloud, so they can speak. If they were to get together, they could speak and listen as they share each other's and work as a group project. So it really does touch on some of the key elements that in our Buncombe County framework that we are wanting teachers to use, and how they want the students engaged. So it really does incorporate a lot of those elements.
There are a lot of comic tools that are available to you, and so we do have links in here for some of the different ones that are available. Some of these have paid subscriptions. Some of them, like Storyboard That, has a limited free feature as well. I did put in an example of a Storyboard That, and we are going to be focusing on using Google Slides, or that also translates to PowerPoint. So we're going to focus on Google Slides today, simply for the ease of using it and sharing it to our students. This is a math example. We did want to show you a couple of examples, and I'm going to click on this and it's going to open it in a different window, but I wanted you to see this one. And this is a little bit advanced because it actually utilizes some of the animations that are also in Google Slides, but just so you can see a simple example of counting on, one of our math strategies for elementary. And so you can see going through this that it's just walking students through the idea of starting at 5 and counting on, which, you know, is that early math strategy that we use with students. But on top of that, it can be used as a teaching tool. And then if you had students, obviously not that are necessarily going to be using counting on, but if they're explaining a math example, then you're going to be able to really be able to tell how well that they understand it.
And the reason we really focus on Google Slides is, as you know, we have the Google products. We all have it. And so it's real easy to get a template to students. They interact with that in a familiar tool, since most students have been using Google Slides from the get-go. They've at least seen it, whether they've actually worked with it and created or not. But it allows the teachers an easy way to get it back, get it to the student, get a copy to the student, but also get that shared back so that you're not having to figure out, okay, great, where has the student put it? Where is it located? Oh, is it blocked? Do I have to bolt it? And all the process. Also, by using Google Slides, you can comment, you can interact, and you can give them immediate feedback as they're creating. It's also controlled. It's a controlled environment so that they are not let loose on a website that sometimes with a website, it may work today and not work tomorrow. And so there's some reliability with Google Slides. You can also print them so that if you want to have something hanging in and around your room or in the hallway, or the student wants to print it because they're really proud of it. And then Google Slides even has the publish to the web option. So you can actually publish to the web and then hyperlink them off of a school website. There's a lot of versatility.
That's what you saw just a moment ago with that math example. It had been published, and so that was the published link. So it looked nice and finished, but it was done in Google Slides.
And of course, the digital comics can be used anywhere. The idea that there's a great push for students to have conversation in math. We don't always think about talking about math. We think about just problem solving, but there's a lot of cognitive development that goes on when a student can actually put into language what they're doing or how to do it, not just ELA. And of course, science and social studies, any of the special areas, exploratory, arts, music, even PE, because characters can walk other characters through proper positions, or how you would do a sit-up or a push-up, or how the game of baseball works, or whatever it happens to be. So the sky's the limit and beyond. I think we can even go beyond the sky when it comes to where these things fit.
So do be thinking about how a comic might lend itself to a project in your content area or your grade level, because if we have a moment at the end, I would love for you to share those ideas out so that we have those ideas in our minds to take away with us as we leave here today. Anything that has a process in any area is something I always like to think about for a comic, because you're automatically walking through a process just by using those different slides or different boxes.
And point of view is a great,
yes,
because what's interesting about it is the fact that you could do the same topic but just change the point of view.
Yes, that's good.
Who's telling whom?
Right. So Wendy is going to pop that template URL back into the chat box.
There it is.
Thank you. If you will click on that, if you have not already done so, and it's going to ask you to make your own copy of the template. And this is what Wendy was talking about just a moment ago when she mentioned the fact that we're not releasing them into the wild blue yonder to work. A template is a great way to scaffold for students. And so you'll notice as you go into this template that this could be shared in a very generic project because it has a wide range of backgrounds that can be duplicated for students. And then I tried to include in my template characters that would go with each background, some objects that would go with each background, a variety of speech or thought bubbles, including the one that has the zigzag around it that makes it look like they're yelling or being very emphatic. And so you have a little bit of everything in this template. This template is now your template. And so you can take this template and you can delete out of it what you don't want, or you can add to it other things that you might want, and you can take it and use it in your own classroom. But scaffolding is one way that we can accommodate for students who may need to be reined in. Maybe just for time's sake, you want them to have a very limited number of objects to choose from or characters to choose from. Maybe it's because of their age. Younger students, you want to have more of a controlled environment, and so able to scaffold for them by creating a template. As students get older, or as they're more accustomed to this, then you may be able to release some of that control and say, you're going to open a new slideshow. And within this slideshow, you're going to find a background and you're going to find a character to represent your book, or find a character that's going to talk about the science process that you're working through right now. And so some of that control can be released, but I do like to start with the template because it gives those students that confidence that they need to move beyond that. As well as teachers. Teachers like to have that control, I feel like, to begin with too, as students are becoming accustomed to it. And it just makes it a little bit easier. So that being said, we are also going to talk about how we find the backgrounds. How did I go about finding them? This is kind of the process that I used. And then in just a moment, we're going to have you actually try it for just a couple of minutes. But there are several different places that you can look at backgrounds or look for backgrounds. I've listed several here: Pixabay, Creative Commons, Slides Carnival, all of these different sites that are regularly used by educators to find pictures that it's okay to use legally, which is the media coordinator coming out in me. I like to make sure that they're legal. So all of those are places that you can go to find images that it's okay for you to use. Another place is to go to Google Images. And when you search in Google Images, search words that are broad, that are going to give you what it is that you're working on. So maybe you're doing a novel that's about baseball. You might search baseball diamond or baseball field or baseball stadium, something that's broad, that's going to give you a plethora of different options. But then if you will go to tools within that Google image search and click usage rights and then labeled for reuse with modification, I typically will save the image to my desktop, and then I will pull it into my Google slide. And in just a second, I'm going to tell you about that. But looking for words that are keywords for me are public domain and no attribution required. Those tell me that it's okay for me to use it as well. That's clues for me in my own mind. So you can also create your own backgrounds. Some people really enjoy working to be creative, and you can do it right in Google Slides if you want to, pulling in something that looks like a floor, something that looks like a wall, a ceiling, the objects within the scene. So feel like you can create your own too if you have the time and the creativity to do that. That's a lot of fun. In Slides, when I get ready to put my background, I will click on an empty part of the slide and look for the word background in the toolbar at the top. And then I select choose image, and then I will locate the image in my saved location. So that is why I like to save it to my desktop so that I can easily find it on my desktop and pull it in. And I'm actually gonna go to, well, we'll do that in a minute. We'll just go ahead and go to the next one first, and then we'll do that. So the same goes for finding the characters and the props and the speech bubbles. And you'll notice in my template, I had one slide that was characters, one slide that's speech bubbles, and one slide that's props. And I went through the same process, looking in the places that I knew I could find them. In slides, it's really easy because you can just go to insert images, search the web, and it's going to pull up those images that are okay for you to use, which is just really quick and easy to do. If you will add PNG to the end of whatever you're searching in your search bar, that stands for Portable Network Graphic, and it is going to be empty around the image. So you're not going to have a shovel with a white box around it, because if your background is green, you don't want a white box around your shovel. It's going to be empty except for the image. And so that's just a little hint to help you with the searching. And again, helpful for the scaffolded or controlled environment, because they can right click on it, copy it, and then they can paste it onto whichever slide that they are working on. Then they can resize it. They can make it bigger if it's closer, smaller if it's further away, and they're able then to add some dimension. They can also flip it if it happens to need to go the other direction, so it can give them a little bit of life to their slideshow or their comics that they're working on.
And I'll just quickly add that if they get a slide built, they can duplicate the slide and they don't have to constantly start from scratch.
Yes, thank you. That was a great point, which is very helpful, especially when they find their background and maybe the characters are going to be on all of them, then duplicate that, and then they can just resize or add the right speech bubbles or a different prop or whatever it is that they're needing to add. So yes, that makes life easier. And some of them may even figure that out before you tell them. So we're going to actually let you start a template, and we're only going to take 3 or 4 minutes to do this, because we want you just to kind of get the idea of how we went about doing this, so that if there's any questions, we can answer that. But what we're going to do is we're going to open a Google slide presentation, a brand new one. We're going to find a background and save it to the desktop or whatever location you prefer. And then we're going to make it the background, and then we're going to add a slide for characters or props and see if you can pull in one character or one prop or one speech bubble. Again, just so that you can see that process. In a project, I would also add slides for instructions, or if you want to add examples, again, you're welcome to copy and paste out of the slide template that I shared with you. So feel free to do that as well if those instructions are what you're looking for, or take them and edit them the way that you need them. But then you would rearrange slides in the order that you want before you share it out to your students. So let's exit now, and Wendy is going to give us a link in the chat, and it's going to be slides.new. If you open a new tab and type in slides.new, it's going to pull up an empty slideshow. And we're going to be slow since I'm zooming. There we go. I'm going to delete those boxes. And I'm actually going to open a new tab so I can find a background.
And Janet, just so you know, remove.bg was posted in the chat, and yes, it's awesome for removing the backgrounds. You can also, just to address Ryan's question, you can open PowerPoint, remove the background, right click on the image and save it as a PNG, and then pull it into whatever you need. So you can actually use PowerPoint as a go-to editor in a pinch if you need to.
Good ideas there. Very good. Okay, so I am looking for a beach background, and I'm gonna save my image to my desktop. Okay, so now that I have my image saved to my desktop, I am back in my slide deck, and I'm going to select background and then choose image. And so when you put it in the background, you're able to actually, and I'm going to upload, you're able to actually put all the different objects and so forth on top without it moving your background. So if you put it in there as an object, then when you tried to edit, it would also move and edit that. So here we have it as a background now. You can see that nothing happens with that. And then as far as inserting an image, search the web, this is where I could find the props, the characters, or speech bubbles. I'm going to actually type in speech bubble. And here's a speech bubble. If I were getting ready to use that, then that could give me a speech bubble. And then of course, clicking on one side and dragging to the other will make it face the opposite direction. And so you can format that way. I would put my bank on a plain slide instead of one that's so busy like this. But we do want you to take about 2 or 3 minutes, and just if you need to minimize us, and we will pause for a second and let you open one and see if you can get a background, see if you can pull in some kind of prop or character or speech bubble, and then we will hop back in. So I'm going to mute for just a moment while you do that. And feel free to unmute if you need to ask a question.
Hi, on my search, it doesn't give me, it just says Creative Commons license or commercial and other. Which would I choose? Creative?
I would go for the Creative Commons license.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Just quickly, you have to use the free download button. If you right click on the images the way you're normally doing so, Pixabay works differently. So if you click on the free download button, it will give you different size options. And when you choose one of those and click download, it should go into your downloads.
That worked. It gave a JPEG.
Great. But obviously building this is going to take a little bit of time, and that's why I like to have a template to start with. And so that's why I shared with you my template. But when you get it created, then you do want to share it to your students. And Wendy's going to talk to us for just a moment about sharing this out.
Absolutely. If you use Google Classroom, it's pretty easy from the standpoint you have your template, you create that assignment, attach the file, but then make sure you switch it so that anyone with the, that it makes a copy for every student. And just in case you're not sure about, or you've done that before, if you create the assignment and forget to attach, if you go back to edit the assignment, the make a copy for every student's not available. So what you would want to do is reuse the post so that it comes in as a brand new. I don't know why Google does that. The other thing is if you don't use Google Classroom, you don't have that option, or you just simply don't want to go that route. You want to give kids this open-ended template to simply have and reference at whatever point, or you're using Canvas or even Seesaw, even though if you are a younger student, just keep in mind they have to be logged in, and there's some caveats there. But to share it with anyone and force a copy, what you do is you grab the link to share it, but where at the very end, and you'll see it highlighted there on the slide, where it says edit, you want to make sure you keep the slash mark, so don't delete the slash mark, but everything at the edit and past that, change it to copy, C-O-P-Y. And then when you highlight and copy that whole URL with the word copy at the end, it will do for them what Janet's template did for you when you first clicked on that, which is forces the copy. It protects your original so that you don't have that whole view only and students don't know how to make their own copy, or you dare share out your original and then 5 kids have made modifications before you realize it. So that's a neat trick. And just so you're aware, that happens for any of the Google products, not just Google Slides. So you can actually use that trick for anything. That's
I
Google.
just wanted to let you know that I have kindergarten, so they're not familiar with Google Slides or anything like that. So we just work with Seesaw, and I made that, you know, like a background and like a comic on Seesaw.
Nice.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's
Awesome.
for the Groundhog Day today. So
I love it. That is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's so easy also in Seesaw. You can use
Yeah.
the backgrounds and the pictures and just, you know.
Very much so.
Yes, thanks for sharing that, though. That's great. So we did want to share with you just a list of resources that we have kind of pulled together, and these are links directly out to these. So again, when you get this presentation, you'll have links to these. Again, the comic template, the original video. This is a using Google Slides doc that is really helpful from Eric Kurtz. And then also I linked our BCS Digital YouTube channel. I'm hoping in the next couple of days that we will have up a little bit longer training about the comics PD. 30 minutes is short. We just don't have time to get through a lot. And so that one lasts about an hour, but I wanted you to know that hopefully there will be another one linked there. This one will also be put up there so you can go back and reference it as well. There are some additional things that you can do with it, and these are things that you might want to explore down the road. Again, we don't have time to get into this today, but we did want to just mention those. And then Wendy is going to put into the chat, first of all, the registration link for my learning plan or Frontline. And so she's going to put that in first. It is the bit.ly with BCS comic credit at the end of it. And so if you will register for that, you will get the 30 minutes of credit for this 30-minute PD. But the second link that she's going to put in, which is the bit.ly with BCS comic follow-up, that one is if you finish creating a template, and if you use it with your class, if you will fill out this little reflection form, and it's basically your name and just a share link so that we can see your template that you created. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as the one I did because I created for a more massive purpose. But if you create a template and show us that and then tell us how it went when you tried it with your kids, then you'll get an additional half hour. So you can actually end up with an hour from this half hour of PD. And then the third link she's putting in is the presentation link from today, which is the bit.ly with BCS comics at the end. And that will take you directly into being able to see what we have done in this particular slideshow. So I know we are 3 minutes over, and I'm sorry, but 30 minutes is short. If you need to jump off, you feel free to do so. But if you have a moment and you would like to unmute and share an idea that you've thought about, I love Sandra's idea that she shared about the groundhogs and using that in Seesaw. Wonderful idea. If you have some kind of idea or something you've thought about that you could use this with, please unmute and pop that.
There's a fun seesaw for Valentine's Day with that too, where it's a heart and you're making a virtual Valentine. So they're adding, you have the icons that they're dragging on it or drawing on it, things like
Very
that.
good. Very good. Good for creativity too.
I also thought about the animal project that we do closer to the end of the year, them creating that and putting their information in their talk bubbles so that when they go back to share, that would be awesome for them to be able to talk through that.
I love it.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be so much fun.
And even recording their screen
That's would
be neat.
Thinking about, or talking like they're the animal. Wouldn't that be cute? That would be so fun.
And perspective, that's good. Other ideas or questions?
I'm still trying to, I want to see if you guys can help me to get the
image.
Yeah, I'm just so surprised because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It just doesn't give me the option not to use the HTML one.
Okay, we'll see if we can't figure that out. Wendy, do you have anything else you want to add before we dismiss, and then we'll see if we can troubleshoot a couple of things?
I believe that's everything. I'm just making sure I'm going through the chat to make sure that I have everyone's questions in there answered.
Okay.
Again,
Wonderful.
I've got the link in there to the presentation that we just used so that you can go back through that and dissect it and revisit any of the examples that you might need.